Hi everyone, my name is Suolang. I am a recent graduate from University of Michigan Ann Arbor, and today my presentation is about using web data to predict the presidential election trends in the United States. This study is an experiment using web data and social media data to predict public support for political candidates. So we explored the Democratic Party primaries for 2020 US presidential elections. At the time we wrote this paper, there was a forced debate of Democratic parties held on October 15 in 2019. Because we would expect there will be larger volume of social media posts, search volume, or opinion shifts at the time around the debates. And we're interested to see if this new form of data can provide preliminary estimates and supplement for more costly and time-consuming nationally representative surveys. As shown in method section, we use 3 primary data sources for our study, and they all obtained through the R programming. So the first one, Twitter API, we focus on the tweets that discuss 12 candidates who have qualified for the debates. We use their first name, last name, full name, and campaign slogans as our keywords and use API to capture and download all the related tweets for 11 days period. And the second, Google API, it provides daily and hourly relative counts of Google searches for each candidate. And we would expect relative increases or decreases in Google searches can be indicative of rising or falling popularity of that candidates. And lastly, Odds Checker. It's a website that combines betting odds from around 20 major betting companies. We read their data into R and compute average odds for each candidate. So after we have this data, a linear model is built using 3 parameters of estimate of change by Twitter sentiments, scale Google searches, and odds checker probability to predict the changes in national level benchmark surveys from Morning Consult. Then move to analysis section. We first look into the trends of number of tweets for each candidate. And overall, we found there are more tweets related to Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders, and Kamala Harris. However, more tweets may not necessarily mean that they're all favorable. Therefore, we used sentiment analysis to interpret the tweets that we collected for each candidate. And it's done by automatic coding. Each tweet will be assigned to a score that's scaled from -1 to +1, and means negative, positive, and 0 means neutral. As shown in the figure 1, we can see that most candidates appear to have more negative sentiments after the debates, like Cory Booker, Kamala Harris, and Pete Buttigieg have a U-shaped changing trends. They gain their most negative tweets during the debates and then gradually recover to the original status. And we could also observe there are increasing positive view on Bernie Sanders, Tulsi Gabbard, and Amy Klobuchar after the debates. And Elizabeth Warren, Joe Biden, Julian Castro had approximately constant sentiment scores over time. And Elizabeth Warren, Pete Buttigieg, and Tulsi Gabbard had most positive score among 12 candidates. And then move to next Google searches for each candidate. Simply checking the pure differences in count may be misleading, as it will be disproportionate between candidates who are already very popular and those who are only gaining popularity after the debates. So to overcome this issue, we compute the relative shares of each candidate's searches as a portion of total searches of all candidates on a given day. So we can see on figure 2, the bar plot shows these scale differences in Google searches for each candidate. Green bar indicates a relative increases, whereas a red bar indicates a relative decreases. We observed that relative share of Google searches for the top 3 candidates, Joe Biden, Elizabeth Warren, and Bernie Sanders, have all dropped. And the relative shares by Tulsi Gabbard, Tommy Steyer, and Amy Klobuchar, and Pete Buttigieg have increased after debates. And then the odds checker implied nomination probability of candidates is shown by the line chart in figure 3. We could observe that Elizabeth Warren has the highest probability, around 50%. Joe Biden has the second rank with around 20%, and he is followed by Bernie Sanders and Pete Buttigieg, both of them at around 10% probability of winning the nomination. According to the linear model we built, that the candidates is observed to have higher implied probability by odds checker. It's also more likely that the upcoming opinion survey will produce result of higher voting intention for that candidate. And the same positive relations for Google searches parameter. And it's worth noting that the Google searches is statistically significant, and so it may be a faster and cheaper tool than expensive survey from which the result became available in no less than a few days. So based on the regression model, we can see the Twitter sentiment doesn't really show the same direction with the polling numbers when predicting the election result. The possible reason we can think of that can be related to the uncertainty of auto-coded sentiment analysis. Automatic coding, it's a very powerful tool, but the judgment is based only on the words. and like approach of dictionary, they have a back of words and not the whole context and overall meaning. For example, if some tweets was metaphors or ironic tweets, they're more likely to be misjudged. In discussion section, I pointed out a few limitations we have in our study. So first of all, the data have been collected for only one debating periods, and therefore we believe our result can be substantially improved if we were able to collect more data from other debating period and election cycles. And the limitations of automatic coding, we have talked about this just a minute before. And also, many people, they may not use Twitter. These group of people may share a very different characteristic with the remaining of the population, and it may cause some undercoverage bias if we use Twitter data. And furthermore, many tweets miss location information, or location is manually defined by the users. So if we have external sources to locate a tweet's users, a state level prediction can be very informative in terms of making the prediction on election results.
That's all I have for today's presentation. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'll be happy to take any questions and comments.